Thank you very much for joining in our set of recorded conversations about just the nature of recovery and stuff like that. And what we'd really like to do, what I'd really like to do at the beginning, probably almost before I even ask you the question about yourself, of course, is most of these conversations Dave and I are having are with people that we know. And I was sitting here the other day going, to work out, well, how long have I known Wendy? It's got to be at least a decade, I'd say now. I don't know if you're able to answer that
Yeah.
question, but I was trying to put it together and I couldn't work out exactly when. There's something
Yeah.
before you did a chat at Sheffield for us, so and that was already ages ago. So yes,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I came across your name before I came across you.
yes,
Looking at a PhD student who'd quoted your work. So
oh okay,
I was aware of you before
yeah.
I met you, but I can't remember when I first met you. Maybe was it on one of the recovery walks or the recovery conferences, the
It
UK
might have been one of
Recovery
the ones, the
Federation.
conferences where Alistair was at, or something like that. And we can come back
Yeah,
to that at the end because I'm really interested in some
yeah,
of your views of that journey,
sure.
and from that really buoyant period of activity
Yeah,
to
yeah,
what's more localized now. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but we'll come back to that. The other bit that occurred to me, well, of course, is, and it's probably where we should start, which is just a little bit about yourself, is that the person who had also brought you into my radar was my colleague here at Glyndŵr, Mandy, of course. And I
yeah,
think you have a crossover around the notions of theology, I guess, yes.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so let's tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into something about your own experiences of drugs, alcohol, and recovery and stuff like that. Just tell me a little bit more
Okay,
just about you, whatever you feel like telling us, just to let the viewers know who you are, as it were. Like,
okay. So yeah, I mean, Mandy, my colleague you mentioned, she's associated with the subject of theology. Um, I guess my academic background is in religious studies, which is slightly different, or some people might say very different, in the sense that um, there's a kind of assumption that it's a neutral, critical discipline that maps religious discourses rather than kind of works from within a religious discourse. So um, the theology is diverse as well. I don't want to characterize theology as a faith-based discipline because I think there are people working in it who are not faith-based, but religious studies is it's much more common for people not to identify as belonging to a religion, but to be interested in the discourse of religion and spirituality, and that's my that's my academic background. And
um,
I worked with Mandy years ago, so
okay. I think I'm going to join those dots up in a little bit, but I already know that obviously you work currently in Chester, which is in England, but you're living right in the heart of Snowdonia, really.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, very lucky to live where I live. I've lived in Wales since I was 18, so I feel an affinity to Wales.
And
You
some
know,
of
I
that was
can't.
down south as well, wasn't it, in Lampeter and stuff like that? I know this, yes.
That's right. Yeah, I was at Lampeter. Well, I lived in or near Lampeter for 23 years, so that feels, very much like my home. I've lived up here in the north for about 12 years.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
And it's the period that you've been living in the north, which is the bit that we really overlap. But we'll come back to that in a minute, and we'll join your I guess professional and where your professional and personal stuff joins up. But um,
Sure.
as you know, we're very interested in capturing stories from people that have got a lot to say. And part of your journey is actually both a personal experience of alcohol and drug use, and or a personal experience of recovery. So I
Yeah.
wonder what you would like to tell us about that. However, whatever you're comfortable in telling us about, really, it would be nice to hear a bit of
Yeah,
that.
sure.